Hello, Namaskar friends. Welcome to this session of teleconference on the subject indexing. I am Jaideep Sharma from the School of Social Sciences, Faculty of Library and Information Science. And this topic that we are going to discuss today is useful for the bachelor's degree students as well as master's degree students. This is a part of the course BLI 223 for bachelor's degree and MLII 102 for the master's degree students. In the bachelor's degree BLI 223, this is block 3 if you would have seen, and for the master's degree students this is a block. In fact, this is dispersed, this is available, this is part of the course MLII 102 at a number of places. So we'll be taking care of the fact that this is useful for both bachelor's and master's degree students, and we'll be discussing from the point of view of both the courses and the classes. Now, we have been having a series of discussions earlier also for this particular course BLI 223. I'll try to connect this with what we have discussed earlier in the earlier two blocks of BLI 223. As it generally happens that the blocks are interconnected, so I will try to start by discussing how this particular block is interconnected with the earlier two blocks of BLI 223. जब हम बात करेंगे तो हम ये देखेंगे कि ये जो ब्लॉक है इसका पहले दो ब्लॉक से किस तरह रिलेशन है, हाउ इंडेक्सिंग इज रिलेटेड विद क्लासिफिकेशन एंड कैटलॉगिंग, हाउ इट इज डिफरेंट, हाउ वी गो ए स्टेप अहेड व्हेन वी टॉक ऑफ इंडेक्सिंग कंपेयर टू क्लासिफिकेशन एंड कैटलॉगिंग. We'll talk about what is indexing, what is an index, and then we'll go on talking about the concept in detail by discussing how it is done, what are the different types of indexes, what are their characteristics, and then we'll talk about the vocabulary, the controlled vocabulary, indexing language, and problems of indexing. So this is how we are going to discuss this topic in detail, and I hope that the discussions today will help you to learn this particular part of your curriculum in a better way. In case you still have certain issues and problems, you can always mail us. The email ID has been given on the website jaideep@ignou.ac.in. Now, starting with what is indexing. In a very simple way, we can say it is the process of preparing an index. Because when we do indexing, we result into an index. So the process of preparing an index is called indexing. But it doesn't make the term very clear, because then immediately what comes to our mind is what is an index. As we have discussed earlier when we were talking of cataloging, you would remember that we had discussed the different types of lists, and in those lists, when we were talking of cataloging, index was one of them. We had mentioned how these certain tools are related to each other, starting from a list to a content list to a catalog to an index to a reference bibliography. These are all related terms, and when we talk from the point of view of information, when we talk from the point of view of a library, these are all tools that help the user or information searcher or a reader to reach his or her information. Then a question that comes to our mind is why we need to create all these tools, because the reader or user always knows his or her information and can easily access that information, particularly when we are talking of the digital era, when we have search engines, we have search tools, we have directories available with us. But then as LIS professionals, as the professionals who are concerned with providing information, serving the information needs of the users, we need to know these tools. We need to know, yes, the user is not always very clear about his or her information. Therefore, we have to be prepared with this fact and prepare ourselves, and also prepare for such situations where user might not be correct and may not be really knowing that such information exists, and may not be even clear about his or her information needs. That is why we talk of all these things in detail, the concept of indexing or the concept of cataloging. Now when you talk of cataloging, you are limiting yourself to the whole documents, and when you talk of indexing, you are talking of parts of those documents. So we'll be talking all these in detail, differentiating between them also. So let us see in the very first instance, if you see this slide, we have tried to explain what is indexing, and if you see this slide on your monitor, you will see that we have mentioned that it is the process of preparing an index, and we have further tried to elaborate on what is an index. It is a systematic guide to the items contained in or the concepts derived from a collection. So we have number of collections, we have number of reading materials which are available in plenty, but since these are available in plenty, these are available on different subjects, we have a responsibility of guiding the students. Therefore we tend to describe these, we tend to characterize these, we tend to provide details about these, so that the readers can lay their hands on these in a very short time. Therefore index has been devised from this point of view. It has also been described as a systematically arranged list of items or concepts with their addresses. So there are two things that are visible in this definition, that it is systematic list, and in this systematic list, these items, which are the reading items that are available in a collection, have been described, and their location has also been given. You would all have seen indexes at the end of books, and you all have used these indexes also. In fact, we have prepared some indexes also, but we take it in a very broad way. At times a general user might be thinking, why you need to talk of a subject like indexing, because at times people feel that it is very easy to prepare an index, because as we have been doing it as part of the exercises that we have been undertaking. But then if you really, and you will also have seen indexes at the end of books, this is one of the type of indexes, and you might not be knowing that people specialize in preparing an index, and there are indexers available who prepare indexes for books. So it is generally not the authors who prepare index, because indexing involves a person who prepares an index should be knowing the subject and also should be knowing the readers and their needs. Then only a person can prepare an index. The index at the back of a book is only one of the different types of indexes. Indexes also exist as independent entities. There are indexing services also. There are indexing systems also. So it's not always that index is appended at the back of a book. As I said, this is only one of the type of indexes. To start with, if you just think of preparing an index to a book, if you take it as an exercise, then only you will be able to realize why and what are the problems, why indexing need to be learned as an art or as a subject, and what are the problems and issues in preparing an index. Just think of having a book with you and you want to prepare an index. The easiest way of preparing an index is that you scan all the pages one after the other and note down the terms that are there in the index, in the chapters or pages, chapters page by page. You write down all those terms and then you have an index. But then you will realize that that will lead to an enormous amount of terms. So that is not how we prepare an index. But then if it has to be based on, the index has to be prepared only based on the terms that are there in the text, that would be quite a simple and easy exercise, but it is not so. The index is not prepared that way. You have to think and take into consideration a number of things. And what are these number of things is, when we talk of these characteristics of index and the process of indexing, you learn about it. Now, just reading some more definitions for an index, they say that it has come from the Latin word indicare, which means to point out or to guide. So the very fact that this came from this term indicare is that you need to show the location of the information for which you are preparing an index. That is an inherent part of any index, that index has to show the location of the information that you are providing in the index. So that is one that comes from the term itself. The other definition that you find here on your screen is from the British Standard. The British Standard defines an index as, I quote from this definition, I quote, a systematic guide to the text of any reading matter or the contents of other controlled documentary material comprising a series of entries with headings arranged in alphabetical or other chosen order with reference to show where each item indexed is located. So see, this has three aspects. One is that it is a systematic guide to the reading material, and it comprises of a number of entries, and it has headings, and the headings are arranged in a particular order. Generally it is alphabetical. So this definition, which has been given in the British Standard, shows the components of an index, that it describes the material which has been indexed, and it is systematically arranged, and every entry has a heading also. And when you might be thinking, what is this heading? Because heading provides access to that. So one is that you are describing that the material that you are indexing, you are also putting it in a systematic way, and you are providing a heading so as to provide access to that. And while providing access to that, you have to provide a location to that. Like at the back of the book index, for every term that has been enumerated there is a page number that is mentioned. If it is a multi-volume book, like in encyclopedias, you would have seen indexes runs into number of pages, number of volumes also. Because the more voluminous the reference book is, like at times reference books runs into 30, 40, 50 volumes also, maybe more than that at times. The index also runs into a number of volumes. So you have to show the location not only by page, you may also have to mention the volume number. So basically the purpose of index is to facilitate the person to reach to his or her information. Now this facilitation may be only limited to a particular book or a number of books or a wide variety of literature also. As I mentioned, that index may not always be appended to a particular document or set of documents, but may be for a set of literature also. That is why I said index exists as an independent entity also, as a service also, as a system also. So now I think up to this point it is very clear that the importance of index, that the complexity of preparing an index, it is not that simple as we think while we see the index at the back of a book. Going further, the characteristics of an index, it guides to the items or concepts in a collection. It's a very the intent of this statement you have to see after a little while. I think you'll be able to understand that it guides to the items and concepts in a collection. So it's not merely listing that you just, at times you prepare a list and you just tell. No, it's not merely a listing. It guides. It guides the reader, it guides the information seeker about the collection and the items contained therein. And the other characteristic is that this index is systematically arranged. And the third characteristic is that it enables easy retrieval of information. The purpose of preparing an index is finally that one is able to lay hands on one's information from a particular point of view, from a particular angle, because from the same set of documents or the same set of information, people may have wide differing needs. It should be able to point out, it should be able to elaborate, it should be able to indicate what different aspects, from what different viewpoints it has been discussed, and that should be visible in the index. That should be one should be educated about that from the index. That is very important of an index. Now, index, as you all know, that it is of different varieties, and one of the varieties is subject index. When we talk of indexing, we basically mean subject indexing. And if you see this slide, you will see that it is the process of identifying and assigning subject headings to documents so that the subjects of these documents are known, and the index thus created helps the searcher in assessing information from the point of view of subject. Now, when I defined only subject indexing and subject index, see, the issue of indexing arises only from subject index and subject indexing, because if you prepare a title index, it's not much of a difficult issue. Even you can use computer, or anyone can do it, because you just need to know all the titles. You put them in at one place, you show their locations, arrange it alphabetically, you have a title index. Similarly, you can also prepare an author index, have the names of all the authors and put them alphabetically one after the other with their locations. You have a author index. But it is only when you prepare a subject index that you have issues, because subject is something which is not easy to not only ascertain, not only mention, but also to understand. Because when you talk of preparing a subject index, you need to provide a subject to a particular information or document as specific, as precise as possible, but also while doing so, see what are the different contexts, what are the different perspectives, what is the scope that has been dealt with in the document, which you need to mention in the index, because the index is there to help the user, to help the reader, reach the information, the specific information that is there, the different aspects of that in the minimum of time. Therefore, all these things have to be kept in mind. I read out another definition from a very authentic source of subject indexing, and that is, the source is UNESCO Handbook of Information Systems and Services, and I quote the definition from this, that it refers to the process of identifying and assigning labels, descriptors or subject headings to an item so that its subject contents are known, and the index thus created can help in retrieving special items of information, unquote. So see, it is a very comprehensive definition, the definition of subject indexing, and it introduced certain terms which we have not yet discussed. These terms are labels, descriptors or subject headings. So whenever we index certain items, it has used the term items. Items means we are not merely talking of books, we are not merely talking of whole documents, we are also thinking in terms of parts of documents. Therefore, it says items. It may be a chapter, it may be part of a report, it may be a particular part of a document which you might be indexing. Therefore, they have used the term item of information. And while you index such item of information, you describe this item, and for describing it, you use descriptors, you use labels, you use subject headings. So this is the terminology you should be knowing, that when you prepare an index for a particular piece of information, for an item of information, you have to assign them subject descriptors, you have to assign them keywords, you have to assign them labels, and that helps to describe these items, and in a way that the person for whom you are doing it understands it, it is of interest to the person, and is also able to retrieve that information. Therefore, that is what is indexing, and the resultant products is an index. Now, when you talk of the person, like if you are doing it for a professional, the terminology that you should make use of should be professional. When you are doing it for a common man, common person, you should be using popular terminology. So this is just to give you an indication of the issues that are involved in indexing, which we will discuss while we discuss further all these things. Moving further, let us go back little to connect with what we have discussed earlier in our earlier sessions on cataloging and classification. You would all remember and recapitulate, which we have discussed earlier also, that there are different finding tools. Index is also a finding tool, and the process is indexing. So trying to correlate it with other finding tools, you see here on your screen, I have enumerated certain finding tools. List is the simplest of these finding tools. Similarly, contents list is a very broad tool. It is also a finding tool, but very broadly we prepare such a tool, which is called a contents list, which is always available in whatever we write, because it helps us to know what and where in that item or the piece of literature. Inventory is another which we had discussed earlier also while we were discussing the concept of library catalog. So inventory is another type of list, and index is not an inventory because it is much more than that. As we had discussed earlier also while we were discussing a catalog, that catalog is also an inventory but much more than an inventory, and index is still further much more than a catalog. Similarly, bibliography is also a type of list, and references are also types of listing, and these all listings have their own purposes. They are attached to a document, they are attached to different parts of documents. At times when you talk of a content list, it is there in the beginning. When you talk of a bibliography, it is at the end. You talk of a reference, it may be at the end, it may be in text also. And when you talk of an index, as I told earlier, it may be at the end of the document. It may be an independent document when you call it as an indexing service, or you call it as a indexing periodical. You all know that there are different types of literature: primary literature, secondary literature, tertiary literature, and to help a user, a reader, to lay hands on the primary literature, you prepare indexes, and indexes save the time of the person. The person might not have to have access to all primary literature. It is through the index that the person is able to know the literature of one's interest through this subject, and thus we study this subject of indexing. Now going further, trying to correlate it with the catalog and cataloging, we will delve into these details a little bit. As we have studied earlier, that library cataloging is concerned with providing you bibliographical details and subject details of a document. Because when you talk of cataloging, we are talking of books as a whole, and a library cataloging, the process of cataloging by which we produce a catalog, provides two types of details about documents. These are the bibliographical details and subject details. And when you talk of bibliographical details, the examples are the author, title, the physical description, or the publication details, and other such details about the document. And when you talk of subject details, basically we are concerned about the subject of the document, the aboutness of the document, and the scope of the subject. This aboutness is a very abstract term. When you talk of aboutness, you have to think from different points of view. You have to think what subject has been discussed, what has not been discussed, within what are the limitations of what has been discussed, what are the delimitations, for whom it is there, what is not there. And then this is one aspect. The other aspect is, once you have known that, you have to represent that in a very unambiguous and a very precisely you have to mention that. You have to also think in terms of the thinking of the person who is going to access that, and also in terms of terminology, because there are issues of language otherwise also that have to be taken care of by an indexer. We will discuss these right now in more detail, one after the other. Now, as we mentioned that in cataloging, one of the aspect is subject cataloging. And how do you do subject cataloging? Like if you think of providing the bibliographical details, you all know we follow standards. And similarly for subject cataloging also, we follow standards. And some of these standards you see here on your screen, we have mentioned here is the list of subject headings. Like the Library of Congress list of subject headings is one, the Sears list of subject headings is the other, and similarly we can also do it by chain indexing or chain procedure that was given by none other than S.R. Ranganathan. So immediately that comes to your mind is, why do we use these standard lists? What is the purpose of using standard lists? Because subject you otherwise also know, because when you want to represent the subject of a document, by reading that document you come to know the subject. And further you can also specify that the title is indicative of the subject. If not the title, the subtitle also tells you the subject. The contents list also mentions, gives you an idea about the subject. You may read the preface, that also gives you an indication of what the subject is of the document. You may have to flip through the pages of the document to know the subject of the document, and further you can also see the jacket, you can read the reviews of the document, you can read about the document somewhere, and all these help you to know the subject of the document, and this is what you mention in the subject catalog. But then you all know that while doing so, you may do it in different ways because of the flexibility of the language. The language allows you to mention the subject in different ways, in different languages, and you can follow different parts of speech also to mention something. And more so, when you talk of subject cataloging, you have to do it in a precise way. You have to do it with the use of minimum words. And finally, when you do it, you have to do it in a standard way. It is not that once you describe a particular subject in one way, the next time you do it in another way, and then this will result into problems, and the problem of standardization is there. One has to do it in a standard way. Therefore, to do so, we follow standard lists. As while describing in bibliographic description also we use standards. So therefore, even in subject cataloging we make use of standards, and these are some of the standards that we have just learnt about. The Library of Congress list of subject headings that is used for large libraries, for research libraries, and similarly Sears list of subject headings is a smaller version based on Library of Congress list of subject headings. These are mentioned as LCHS, LCSH, and SLSH. In short, this is how they are mentioned in the literature also. So SLSH is based on LCSH, and these standards are followed in large research libraries and small and medium sized libraries. And the other one is the chain indexing or chain procedure that is based on class numbers of documents which have been given by Ranganathan, which can be followed in different schemes of classification, but then the class number is translated into its verbal equivalent to show what is the subject of the document. And thus, as we have earlier seen the definition of indexing, it helps to describe the subject of the document. It helps to the user to know what is the subject of the document, and also gives you access to that document from the subject and gives you a location also. And in case you assign the subject by using a list of subject headings, the location is given by the call number or the other details of the book, whereas in case of chain procedure or chain indexing, the subject is assigned on the basis of call number, and this is called chain procedure because in the chain that is there that represent the subject, each aspect of the chain is translated into different facets and sub-facets, and thus the indexer or cataloger is able to show what from different angles or different subparts or different parts of the class number, how you are able to see and access documents that are there in the catalog. Now moving little further, let us see how subject indexing and subject cataloging are related to each other, because we use subject cataloging. For subject cataloging we make use of list of subject headings, but then why are two different terms used, subject cataloging and subject indexing? Basically they are used interchangeably also, but then when you talk of subject cataloging, we are trying to mention subject approach towards documents, and these are macro documents, the terminology that was introduced by Ranganathan. That is, we are talking of books, assigning subjects to books. But when you talk of subject indexing, we are talking of providing subject approach to micro documents. That is, one example of micro documents is journal articles. So till now we have seen what is an index, what is indexing, and how these are further developments of subject cataloging, how subject cataloging and subject indexing are different from each other, and we will continue looking into it further. We'll take a short break right now and we will continue with this after 2-3 minutes of this break.
Are you interested in television journalism or radio journalism or online journalism? Or do you want to learn with the flexibility of open learning? Or if you are a working professional, wants to enhance your knowledge and skill with certification in the field of electronic media, then School of Journalism and New Media Study IGNOU offers PG Diploma in Electronic Media for you. This program includes audio and audio-visual program production for radio, television and online platforms. Here are some important details about the program. We have total 8 courses of 32 credits, 6 theory courses, 1 practical and 1 project. Eligibility: bachelor's degree in any subject. Minimum duration 1 year, maximum 3 years. Medium is English, but students can write their examinations, assignments, practical and project in Hindi also. So if you are interested in television, radio or online media, please come and join IGNOU's PG Diploma in Electronic Media.
Hello friends, welcome back to this session on indexing. We have been discussing the definitions of indexing, of an index. We have seen that indexing entails describing a item of information, providing the location also to that, and the main purpose is that one should be able to know what aspects of the subject has been dealt with in that item, where these have been dealt with. So this is how, and this is related to subject cataloging and how it is different from subject cataloging. Now let us move further and see how indexing or subject indexing is related to classification. See, when you talk of library classification, again, we are talking of classifying whole documents, though we may also classify documents in depth when you talk of classifying micro documents, as Ranganathan had called it depth classification. But then when you talk of classification, you try to analyze the subject of documents and represent the subject in terms of classificatory language. So the purpose is same whether it is indexing or classification, but the product is different. Moreover, the purpose varies in one way. The purpose, when you talk of classification, the function is to, one of the functions is to arrange the documents in shelves, a linear arrangement, so that people can come and browse the documents and also lay their hands of the documents. Whereas in case of indexing, we tend to prepare surrogates to those information so as to enable them, people, to know about that information. Moreover, after analysis, in case of library classification, the subject is translated into the classificatory language, and in case of index, it is translated into an indexing language. Now, how this classificatory language is different from indexing language? Both are ordinals. Both make use of ordinals, but the difference is that in case of classification, we assign numerals generally, because these are to be arranged linearly in a shelf. Whereas in case of indexing, we assign them their verbal equivalents, which is easier for the user, but this is how they are related as well as how they are different from each other. Process is same, that you tend to analyze the subject of the document. Purpose is same, to enable the reader to lay hands on the information, to have access to the information, but the ways are different. The product is different. In case of classification, it's a number. In case of indexing, it is their verbal equivalents. It is their alphabetical equivalents. So this is how they are related as well as they are different. Now, whether you do classification or you do indexing, the first stage or the first step is subject analysis. As I mentioned you earlier also, that to prepare an index, you just cannot think in terms of the terminology that is used. You have to think in terms of the concepts behind those terms. So this is the very first and most important part of preparing an index, that you have to analyze the subject. And how do you analyze the subject? You start by reading and seeing the important places, that starting from the title to the cover page to the introduction to the preface, but then you need to be an expert in that area. That is why when indexes are prepared, these are prepared by highly qualified professionals who have the subject expertise as well as the expertise in preparing an index. Though nowadays we make use of computers and the technology is there to help us, but then still the role of professionals is there, and as a matter of theoretical understanding also we should know, and therefore this is something very important in subject analysis, that one should be adept at the subject. Though there are highly developed systems these days, we make use of computers, we have systems wherein we can generate indexes like keyword indexes, and we will talk of these different types of indexes, how the computers are or the machines are more suitable for preparing certain types of indexes, and how the human intervention is important in another type of indexes. But then the subject analysis is an important and the very first part of preparing an index. The next part in preparing an index is subject representation. So once you have analyzed the subject of the document, for which no indexing language helps you, for which no scheme of classification helps you, you have to know the subject to analyze the subject. Though there are certain areas which there are certain helps that are there, like you as mentioned earlier, that certain parts of the document, like the machine also is guided by the fact that you may get to know the subject from the title, from the abstract of the document, from the methodology of the document, from the findings of the document, or from the objectives of the document. So this is how this guides us, but then one need to know the subject for analyzing the subject. Next step is representation of the subject. After you have analyzed the subject, you have to represent it. As mentioned earlier, that in case of classification, you represent it by means of class numbers. Whereas in case of an index, you need to have a language to represent that, and that is what is called indexing language. And this representation of the subject should be such that you are able to correlate the different aspects of the subject. Like we do when you write a sentence, you are able to tell, yes, this is the verb, this is the adverb, this is noun, these are the different parts of speech, and from there you know the articles, prepositions, conjunctions, and you know the keywords could be the verbs and adjectives which describe something, and these are all auxiliary words that are there. Similarly, in case of indexing also, you need to have some such system which is called a syntax, which we'll consider later also. So that is the representation, the next part of it. Then you need a language for organizing this. You need a language for representing the subject. You need a language for showing the relationship between different aspects and sub-aspects of the subject. And for that, in classification, you make use of a classificatory language, and indexing, you make use of a indexing language to represent the subject. We have all learned that in classification, every classificatory language has its own rules. Like in the system given by Ranganathan, we have seen that he divided into 5 fundamental categories: the personality, matter, energy, space and time, and he gave the postulational approach, and this is how he developed the syntax of the classification. He gave a dynamic theory of classification. Whereas if you talk of subject heading lists, the Sears list of subject headings or the Library of Congress list of subject headings, they have their own syntax, they have their own semantics, they have their own system to show the semantics and syntax among the different aspects of the subject. Because in case it is a simple subject, there are less issues, but when a subject is complex, it is interdisciplinary in nature, there are different facets in the subject, and these facets have certain relations between them. You have to show them by the descriptors, by the subject headings, by the keywords that are there, because otherwise it will make a difference if you are not able to show the exact subject relationship between the different facets of the subject. And therefore representation is important, and for that representation you need to have a language that is very important. Like we have the language to convey our ideas, similarly there are languages in indexing which have their own grammar, which have their own rules, which have their own vocabulary. Though the base is the language that we use, which we in indexing we call it natural language. So the language which we make use of to convey our ideas, it is denoted as natural language when we talk of indexing. And when we put constraints in using this language, we use it in certain ways with certain limitations, with certain rules and regulations. It is called indexing language. And based on these use of these languages, there are different types of indexes, there are different types of languages also, and let us see what these are. So the difference between classificatory language and indexing language is that classificatory language is used to arrange the books by subject, and therefore the classificatory language is artificial in nature, though ordinal numbers and may be having numerals and non-numerals, and this enables you to place the documents in a APUPA pattern as was mentioned by Ranganathan, but which APUPA is an acronym: alien, penumbral, umbral, penumbral, alien. He used to say that those documents or those subjects which are very closely related should be kept close to each other, and that is what he mentions by the umbral region. And similarly, those which are less related, he denotes them as penumbral region, and those which are least related, he calls them as alien, or not related, he calls them as alien. So he says that you should have such a beautiful arrangement in the stacks that all those documents on subjects which are closest to each other, he mentions them as umbral, penumbral and alien. Similarly, in list of subject headings also, they said they guide you to how to represent the subject of a document using its own language, so that you are able to place closely related documents or subjects close to each other. That is how you help the reader to have the documents or information or subjects of their interest close to each other in the index. Otherwise also you have a system by which you are able to guide the user. Now, indexing language. Indexing language, as mentioned earlier also, that you are able to represent the subject in a way that closely related subjects are placed close to each other, and you are able to show a panoramic view of different subjects, closer and less closer and farther and still further from each other, and this is how you place them by making use of the indexing language. Now, every indexing language has a certain characteristics, and these are, every indexing language, like our own language, has its own semantics, has its own syntax and has its own syntactics. So these are the three important components of any indexing language. When you talk of semantics, means the way you make use of that language, how does it convey the meanings? Like, every subject has a name, and it could be just by one word or number of words, it could be a term, it could be a number of terms, and it could be a phrase also. But then these are all well accepted and understood by us in language. But when you talk of an indexing language, with the limitations that are there, with the rules of the indexing language, you have to convey these, and that is very important, and that is what is meant by semantics. And syntax means you give it a structure. I'll give you some examples for that. And the third part of every indexing language is syntactics. You try to correlate the different aspects which you are not able to show in the otherwise the headings that you are given, that the different headings, how they are related to each other. For that, there is a mechanism which is called syntactics. Now, we talk of semantics in detail. There might be different a priori relationship between subjects which are taken care of, which are handled by the semantics of the indexing language. And these different types of relationships you see here on your screen. These are hierarchical relationships and non-hierarchical relationships. Within hierarchical relationships, these could be genus-species relationships, these could be whole-part relationships, these could be instance relationships. And when you talk of non-hierarchical relationships, these could be equivalence, relationship of equivalence, or it could be relationship of association or associative relationship. See, when you prepare an index, now you would realize how it is difficult. You are not thinking in terms just of terms, in terms of words. You are thinking in terms of the concept, the meaning behind those terms, because terms may be artificial. It is the meanings that convey the subject that is there inside it, behind it. And that is why we tend to understand in terms of the relationships which I've just mentioned, could be hierarchical or non-hierarchical. Now let us see some examples. Now when you talk of genus-species relationships, like if you talk of genus-species in terms of concepts, I give you some examples here on your screen, that like academic libraries and school libraries, they have a genus-species relationship. Cars and sports cars in very general terms, this is another example of genus-species relationships. Continents and countries, index and subject index, these are all examples of genus species. And why you think in terms of genus species? Because you have to correlate them when you prepare an index, because the thinking of the user may not be as specific as that. Therefore, you need to show how these terms are related to each other in terms of hierarchical relationships, which could be any of these as I have mentioned just now. Another hierarchical relation is whole-part relationship. And some of the examples of these whole-part relationships I have taken from different subjects are like digestive system and stomach. So if there is something on digestive system, there may be something on stomach also, or the intestines also. So you have to see how you correlate them when you prepare an index. It could, another example is library and staff. This is a whole part relationship. Staff and professional staff in terms of life. This is another whole part relationship. India and Delhi, they have a whole part relationship. So when you are analyzing the text, when you are analyzing the item of information, you have to see what sort of whole part relationships exist, because they are related to each other, and this is how you have to analyze the document. And the indexing, the representation of the document has to take care of this fact, because the user is not very sure of his or her information needs, and therefore might be thinking in terms of the part, whereas it might be whole, and generally it might be whole, whereas it must be a part, and you have to direct and help the user in that. It could also be an instance, and some of the example of instances are here on your screen, like countries and India, rivers or Ganges, states of India or UP. These are all examples of instances, and therefore the person might be thinking in terms of the generic term, whereas it could be an instance that could be of his need, and therefore as an indexer we have to think in terms of that. Another type of relationships are equivalence relationship, and in equivalence relationships it could be synonymous terms. At times these may be synonymous, but there may be shades of difference in their meanings. Like some of these I have given here on the screen: lift and elevator, fishes and spices, common salt, NaCl, special library, technical library. So the problem is, when you think as an indexer, what term you have to use? You have to either seek the guidance of the standard that you are using, or you have to have your own standard in terms of that. There might be lexical variants, because you have analyzed already. You have to represent, like whether you will make use of plurals if it is noun, or singulars. So there are rules that have been there, like in the Library of Congress list of subject headings or CS list of subject headings. They say you represent the abstracts in singular, the non-abstracts in terms of plurals. Like if you and to identify it more easily, when you say how much, it has to be singular. How many, it has to be plural. Similarly, you may have to use qualifier to see that you are able to differentiate between the terms and the concepts behind those terms. Term is the same, but the concept is different. So these are some examples that you see here. Similarly, whether you will make use of noun phrases or not, it is only those, or adjective or adverbial phrases or abbreviations, whether you will mention it as a phrase or not. If it is accepted, we have to use, like some examples I have given you on this screen. Similarly, certain abbreviations are accepted. You may not have to give them in full, because the rule is how it is commonly used, how it is commonly understood. So that is how the indexer is guided by these rules of lexical variants. Now we have talked of hierarchical relationships now and the equivalence relationships. Now let us come to associative relationships. There are certain concepts which are associated with each other. I have given you some examples here, like the education and teacher, library and librarian, height and depth, neurology and nervous system, wheat and flour, temperature and thermometer. So you are thinking of the concept, you are thinking of the measuring device, you are thinking of the actor, you are thinking of the action. So these are all related concepts which have to be taken care of while you index the documents. Now syntax, as I was mentioning earlier also, that syntax, we have a syntax of our language. Every language has its own syntax, but then when you index, you cannot mention it in different ways according to the different languages. It has to be a standard syntax. Therefore, whichever indexing system you use, whichever indexing language you make use of, you have to follow the syntax. Like you talk of the list of subject headings, the syntax is so that you put the most specific term first and the other terms later. But then at times it is not so easy to determine this, and you have to seek the guidance of the how you may read the introductory pages of the list of subject headings, you read the principles of the list, and these are not just decisions are not taken in a simple way. They think about the thinking of the user. They think what comes to the mind of the user first, and here they say it is the most concrete that comes first and the less concrete that comes later. It is the personality, as Ranganathan used to say, or it is the most concrete aspect, the most restrictive aspect first, and then the other aspects. So this is how the syntax is decided. Similarly, extending the thoughts of Ranganathan, we have other things that have come up, like the act and action actor tool principle that he gave. Similarly, the categories have increased to 5 and 7 by different authorities, and this is how syntax has come into picture and which we should learn. Syntactics. Now you have analyzed the terms, you have represented the terms, but in index the user may be lost, and you need to guide the user, and for that you have the tools, the tool of syntactics that is there, and you make use of references for that. The concepts that are used are see also, used, use and used for. Similarly, in thesaurus we make use of the abbreviations like NT, BT, RT, and these are used for relating two terms which are broader and narrower, narrower and broader. So broader to narrower you make use of NT, narrower to broader you make use of BT, and similarly for associative terms we make use of RT, and these are the component of syntactics that is part of any indexing language, because you have to take care of the fact that user or the searcher for information is not very sure of what the person is looking for. Therefore, you need to have this also. Now, there are different types of indexing. The two types are derived indexing and assigned indexing. Derived indexing is based on the terminology that has been used in the item or the piece of information that you are indexing, whereas in assigned indexing you have to assign on the basis of concepts. Whatever we have discussed right now, it is all used in assigned indexing, whereas in derived indexing you make use of the terms that are there in the text. Similarly, there are different types of indexing languages like the natural language indexing, the free indexing language, and the controlled indexing language. So the concepts of relationships, the different types of relationships are encountered when you talk of controlled indexing, whereas when you talk of natural indexing, you make use of the terminology that has been used by author, that is comparatively simple, and when you talk of free indexing, you can make use of any number of synonyms also. And when you talk of controlled indexing, it is the vocabulary control that is very important, and we have mentioned of the tools of vocabulary control, and some are very specific tools like medical subject headings or there in education also. And we have also talked of process of indexing. Now the problems of indexing is that analysis, you need to be an expert in subject. For representation, you need to know the psychology of the user, the needs of the user, and similarly the display mechanism is also there, and retrieval is finally there. So these are some of the problems that are there of language, and synonyms are there. Similarly, technical as well as popular terms are there, and this is what we are using we are talking of all these because there is an information storage and retrieval system wherein this indexing language is used not only by the indexer but also by the searcher, because when they want to reach to their information, it has to be done in a standard way. So what the indexer has used certain tools, the searcher also make use of those tools, and these are thesauri or other systems of indexing using certain languages. They make use of this so that they are able to reach their information. So what we have discussed there today is part of block 3 of BLI 223 and MLII 102 the MLIS course, and if you discuss this from the different perspectives that we have thought of today, I think you'll be able to understand the concept of indexing as it has been discussed, starting from its relationship with cataloging and classification, its definitions, its characteristics, its different types, the process, and the problems of indexing. In case you have still doubts, you can always send us a mail and we'll be happy to clear your doubts. Thank you.
Are you a fresh graduate? Do you want to fulfill your educational aspiration by pursuing higher education in various interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary areas like environmental science, environment and occupational health, philosophy, sustainability science, folklore and culture studies? If yes, the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies offers various programs like Master's Program, Graduate Program, Postgraduate Diploma, Certificate and Appreciation Program. The school offers 5 Master's Program. Master of Science, Environmental Science. The eligibility criteria for MSc Environmental Science is Graduate in Science, BTech, BE, Agriculture Graduate, Forestry Graduate and Veterinary Graduate. School also offers Masters in Environment and Occupational Health, Masters in Sustainability Science, Masters in Philosophy and Masters in Folklore and Culture Studies. The eligibility criteria for these 4 Masters program is graduate in any discipline. School also offers various socially relevant and need-based PG Diploma program like PG Diploma in Sustainability Science, PG Diploma in Environment and Occupational Health, PG Diploma in Folklore and Culture Studies and PG Diploma in Migration and Diaspora Studies. The school also offers PG certificate in
हेलो, नमस्कार, अभिवादन सभी दर्शकों का और हमारे जो विद्यार्थी हैं MAER का, MA एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप प्रोग्राम का, उन सभी विद्यार्थियों को, सभी दर्शकों को आज के इस टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंसिंग सेशन में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, अभिवादन है। आज के सेशन में मेरे साथ हमारे कुलीग मिसेस आशा यादव भी जुड़ी हुई हैं और हम दोनों लोग, जैसा कि हमने पहले भी बताया है कि हम दोनों लोग इस प्रोग्राम के कोऑर्डिनेट भी कर रहे हैं और समय समय पे जैसा कि हमारा शेड्यूल रहता है, हम लोग आइदर ज्ञान दर्शन के माध्यम से और या तो रेडियो के माध्यम से हम आपके संपर्क में रहते हैं और आप कोशिश करते हैं कि आपकी जो भी शंकाएं हैं पठन पाठ्यक्रम से लेके चाहे सपोर्ट से रिलेटेड, we always try to resolve those issues. So in today's sessions we are going to discuss about the course 2, that is MER 002, and with this course, particularly with the block 2, that is policies and provisions for entrepreneurship development. जैसा कि हम कोशिश रहती है कि हम अधिक से अधिक विद्यार्थियों के साथ जुड़ें, और आज के सेशन में हमने कोशिश किया है जुलाई 2023 के बच्चे जो इस वर्ष एडमिशन्स लिए हैं उन बच्चों के साथ हम लोग संपर्क करने की कोशिश की है। उम्मीद करते हैं ऐसे विद्यार्थी जो फर्स्ट टाइम दिस ज्ञान दर्शन में टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंसिंग के साथ जुड़े हैं, आप सभी का स्वागत है। और before coming to the points, I would like to make you aware about the ODL system, that if you are, hope you have read, you have gone through the program guide which we have shared with all our learners. If not, to please go through. This is going to help you in this journey of teaching learning process. So ऐसे विद्यार्थी जो नहीं पढ़े हैं वो जरूर पढ़ लीजिए, ये आपको काफ़ी हेल्प करेगी। आप जब IRC या ज्ञान दर्शन में भी जब आ रहे हो तो आप वो रेलिवेंट टॉपिक्स जो कि हमने आपसे शेयर किया हुआ है पढ़ के आए तो परिचर्चा में भी काफ़ी रुचिकर होता है। तो आशा है, उम्मीद करते हैं कि आप भविष्य में इस चीज़ को, जिन विद्यार्थियों को जो फर्स्ट टाइम जुड़े हैं उनको हम बता दें कि इसकी काउंसलिंग्स हम लोग समय समय पे यहाँ पे भी लेते हैं, और हमारे रीजनल सेंटर्स जो पूरे देश में विभिन्न केंद्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं वो भी आपको टाइम टू टाइम टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंसिंग और IRC के थ्रू इनफैक्ट और गूगल मीट के थ्रू वो ऑर्गेनाइज कराते हैं। आप ज़रूर उसको अटेंड करें, और वो जो भी इसके रिलेटेड है इंफॉर्मेशंस वो दे कीप ऑन शेयरिंग। सो प्लीज़ कीप ऑन विजिटिंग टू आवर IGNOU वेबसाइट एंड ऑल्सो कीप ऑन चेकिंग योर ईमेल। बहुत सारे ज़रूरी इंफॉर्मेशंस हम मेल, क्योंकि दूरस्थ माध्यम है, सो ऐसा आप एक्सपेक्ट ना करें कि हम लोग हमेशा ही आपसे फेस टू फेस या ऐसे संपर्क में रहेंगे, नहीं रहेंगे। हम लोग हमेशा डिस्टेंस मोड की ही थ्रू आपसे संपर्क में रहेंगे थ्रू। तो हमने आपको सॉफ्ट में मटेरियल्स हमने सभी विद्यार्थियों को भेज दिए हैं, आशा करते हैं कि सबको मिल गए होंगे। नहीं, जिस विद्यार्थी या लर्नर्स को नहीं मिले होंगे प्लीज़ हमें आप MAER के ईमेल पे हमें आप सूचित करें, हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे एड्रेस करें। दूसरा, हम अपेक्षा करते हैं एज ए डिस्टेंस लर्नर यू शुड बी ए वेरी डिसिप्लिन लर्नर। टाइम टू टाइम यू हैव टू go through your teaching learning materials, then only you will be able to complete this program. और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि हमारे सारे विद्यार्थी जो इस प्रोग्राम से जुड़े हैं, जिस उद्देश्य से जुड़े हैं, उस उद्देश्य पे खरे उतरें और उसको करें पूरा। ये तभी पॉसिबल है जब आप नियमित रूप से अपने पाठ्य सामग्री को पढ़िए, और जब कभी कोई शंका हो उस चीज़ को आप रेस कीजिए, क्वेश्चन कीजिए, चाहे वो रीजनल सेंटर्स के द्वारा आयोजित हो रहा है या हम लोग सब जब करते हैं तो आप पढ़ के आएंगे। बहुत सारे पाठ्य सामग्री हमने प्रिंटेड फॉर्म में ही है जो आपके रजिस्टर्ड एड्रेस पे वो मिल जाएंगे। तो इसमें जो मटेरियल्स है इट इज़ रिटन इन वेरी सिंपलर फॉर्म, इट इज़ इन अ वेरी इंटरेक्टिव फॉर्म। आपको लगेगा जैसे आप किसी टीचर से ही इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हैं, तो आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको अच्छा लगेगा। हमने उसमें बहुत जगहों पे इंटेक्स्ट क्वेश्चंस और एक्टिविटी बेस्ड भी रखा है। और एक चीज़ और भी हम शेयर करना चाहते हैं कि ये प्रोग्राम में NEP के अंतर्गत बनाया गया है, तो NEP में एग्जिट ऑप्शंस भी है। तो इस प्रोग्राम में जो विद्यार्थी चाहें तो 1 साल के बाद एग्जिट कर सकते हैं विथ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट डिप्लोमा इन एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप्स के साथ। यदि आप 2 साल का कंप्लीट करते देन यू विल गेट द मास्टर्स डिग्री। और जैसा कि इस पे पठन स्वयं करना है, पढ़ना खुद ही है, और समय समय पे जो उसके हर कोर्स से रिलेटेड एक असाइनमेंट्स बनाए गए हैं और IGNOU के वेबसाइट्स पे अपलोडेड है। तो कृपया कर आप उस जो असाइनमेंट्स है उसको डाउनलोड करके उसको भी जैसे इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए गए हैं उसके असाइनमेंट्स को लिखिए, और कंसर्न रीजनल सेंटर्स पे आइदर थ्रू ऑनलाइन थ्रू सॉफ्ट फॉर्म में और हार्ड कॉपी एज instructions given by the respective concerned RCs, just follow those norms और वहाँ पे आप सबमिट कीजिए। किसी परिस्थिति में कहीं पे किसी स्टेज पे at any point of time you feel any problems regarding material support services, please write to us, we'll be very happy to address those issues। इसी तरह से आपको assignments लिखने हैं जो बच्चे चूँकि ये प्रोग्राम सेमेस्टर वाइज है, 4 सेमेस्टर्स में डिवाइडेड है, तो जो विद्यार्थी इच्छुक हैं दिसंबर वाले एग्ज़ाम में अपीयर होने के लिए, वो यदि रेडी हैं तो वो असाइनमेंट्स 30 नवंबर तक अवश्य सबमिट कर लें और एग्ज़ाम फॉर्म भर लें और उसी के अकॉर्डिंग अपना अपीयर हों एग्ज़ाम में। और इसके साथ ही चूँकि ये एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप से रिलेटेड प्रोग्राम है, तो हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं हमारे विद्यार्थी जिसको इस फील्ड में रुचि है, दे वांट टू बी ए एंटरप्रेन्योर, और जो ऑलरेडी इस फील्ड में एज ए बिजनेस चला रहे हैं, चलाने की कोशिश करते हैं, बहुत सारे आइडियाज़ के साथ आते हैं, नहीं कर पाते हैं, तो ये एक प्रोग्राम एक मील का पत्थर साबित होगा, ऐसा हमारा मानना है। क्योंकि हमने डिज़ाइन करते टाइम हमने कोशिश की इन्हीं उद्देश्यों को कवर करें, और इसीलिए हमने इसको हर साल एक प्रोजेक्ट्स का भी दिया है, ताकि हम आपके साथ कुछ एक्टिविटी बेस्ड कुछ प्रोजेक्ट करें। और हमने कुछ उसमें प्रोजेक्ट्स का हैंडबुक और गाइडलाइंस भी हमने मेल वेबसाइट्स पे और मेल के थ्रू हमने भेजा हुआ है, तो आप उस गाइडलाइंस को पढ़ लें करने के बजाय। उसमें कुछ टॉपिक्स सुझाव के लिए देखें, नॉट नेसेसरी वन शुड फॉलो दोज टॉपिक्स एग्जैक्टली, बट इट इज़ जस्ट फॉर रेफरेंस के लिए है। आप उससे मिलते जुलते और भी अपने फील्ड में, चाहे जिससे अपनी एरियाज़ में आपका इंटरेस्ट है, उसमें आप करें और उसका जो सिनॉप्सिस है स्कूल में भेजें, हम उसका कंसीडर करके हम आपको वापस भेजेंगे, तब उस पर डिटेल प्रोजेक्ट्स बना के हमारे प्रोजेक्ट्स यूनिट्स में आप सबमिट कर दीजिए। इसका मूल्यांकन जो डेजिग्नेटेड इवैल्यूएटर्स हैं उसके द्वारा करके उसका रिजल्ट्स डिक्लेयर किए जाते हैं। तो आशा करते हैं कि जो हमारे द्वारा बताए गए, हमारे द्वारा सुझाए गए जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं, आप उसको पढ़िए, और बहुत सारे आपको मटेरियल्स मेल से, सॉफ्ट में और ई ज्ञान कोर्स पे भी अवेलेबल है। कुछ कोर्सेज जो नहीं है हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं यथाशीघ्र आपको हार्ड कॉपी में अवेलेबल कराइए। तो चलते हैं हम लोग आज की परिचर्चा पे। आज की जो कि टॉपिक है, जो कोर्स 2 है MER 2 फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप्स के बारे में है, और इस पे ब्लॉक 2 में है पॉलिसीज एंड प्रोविजंस के बारे में हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे। सो फर्स्ट लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट डज मीन बाय पॉलिसीज। So policies generally refers to any proposed actions या जो हम प्लान करते हैं किसी चीज़ को करने के लिए, एक सेट गोल को अचीव करने के लिए एक नॉर्मल पाथवे फॉलो करना है, तो उससे एज ए पॉलिसीज इट इज़ बेसिकली सेट ऑफ एक्शंस। और गवर्नमेंट टाइम टू टाइम अपनी पॉलिसीज नई बनाती है, या उसको आफ्टर सम टाइम दे रिव्यू इट, सर्टेन उसमें शॉर्टफॉल्स होते हैं, सो अकॉर्डिंगली दे रिवाइज दोज पॉलिसीज एज पर द नीड, एज पर जो ज़रूरतें होती हैं। और ये पॉलिसीज इट इज़ नॉट कन्फाइंड ओनली फॉर दिस ये एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप्स और इंडस्ट्री से रिलेटेड, हर फील्ड में भी पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट्स बनाए जाते हैं। बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल्स है अभी शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में NEP है, तो इट इज़ ए बेसिकली पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट्स। तो बेसिकली इट्स इंटेंट्स, इट्स शोज व्हाट द गवर्नमेंट्स वांट्स टू डू। एक टेन्योर्स में, एक लंबे अंतराल पे हम क्या एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं, हम क्या गोल सेट करते हैं, तो उसमें एक डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स। और सिमिलरली इसी तरह से जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस का भी फॉर्म किया गया, तो उसमें भी डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स के अंतर्गत हर स्टेट्स को पॉलिसी एक गाइडलाइंस दिया गया एज ए वेलफेयर मेजर, एज ए वेलफेयर स्टेट्स वी ऑल नो। सो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को भी ऐसी पॉलिसी दी गई कि आप इंडस्ट्री से रिलेटेड। और बिगिनिंग में क्या था, प्री इंडिपेंडेंस के टाइम पे, चूंकि हमारा देश ब्रिटिश कॉलोनी से जस्ट हम लोग निकले थे, तो उस टाइम पे गवर्नमेंट का पॉलिसी यही था कि कैसे हम अपने नागरिकों को, जो कि अभी निकले हैं, जिनको बाहरी दुनिया, वर्ल्ड इंडस्ट्रियल कम्युनिटीज के बारे में कुछ नहीं पता था, तो हमने कोशिश की वहाँ पे कि गांधी जी की जो गांधीयन फिलॉसफी थी कि डिसेंट्रलाइज हो, खासकर कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज के बारे में, और हमारे विलेजेस जो हैं सेल्फ रिलायंट हो, तो उसको उद्देश्य को रख के सब चीज़ें आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस भी ऐसा रखा गया पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट, और बहुत दिन तक उसको फॉलो किया। बट आफ्टर सम टाइम बिकॉज ऑफ फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स, ही हैज थॉट ऑफ कि जो हम यदि रियल में इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की ओर मूव करते हैं तो दिस प्रोसेस इज स्लो एंड दिस थिंग्स, जबकि कि जो यदि कॉटेज इंडस्ट्री या खादी के जो छोटे मोटे वो थे लघु उद्योग थे उस पे, इसमें सबसे ज़्यादा एम्प्लॉयमेंट्स के स्कोप्स थे। जो इकॉनमी थी इक्वली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड था, बहुत सारे इसके फायदे थे, लेकिन समहाउ पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट्स जो बना, बाद में अम्बेडकर जी ने भी उसको सपोर्ट किया, और ये जो खादी और कॉटेज वर्ड लिटरली हैज बीन ड्रॉप्ड फ्रॉम दिस पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट्स, और फिर धीरे धीरे हम लोग इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की ओर बढ़े, और उसके बहुत सारे फायदे भी हुए, लेकिन आवश्यकता ये थी कि इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन और कॉटेज, जो खादी और कॉटेज, इट वाज नॉट, इंडस्ट्रीज जो थी, मॉडर्न इंडस्ट्री इज नॉट गोइंग टू रिप्लेस दोज एस्पेक्ट्स, इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट दे शुड सपोर्ट ईच अदर, क्योंकि इस पे जो हमारी बेकारी और अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट के जो वो थे मसला था, वो हल हो जाता था। तो इन चीज़ों को ध्यान में रख के फिर बाद में 5 ईयर्स प्लान्स में ये सब चीज़ों को धीरे धीरे हर 5 ईयर प्लान्स में उनकी प्रेफरेंसेस, पॉलिसी, फोकस्ड अलग अलग थे। तो इस तरह से चीज़ें डेवलप होती गई, और फिर इकोनॉमी आज के जो प्रेजेंट शेप में है, इट इज़ इन देयर। So before coming to in details for the presents for the industrial policy, जो industrial policy थी फर्स्ट में 1948 में था, फिर 56 में रिवाइज हुआ, लेटेस्ट में 2000 में उसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें इनकॉर्पोरेट होती गई एज पर द नीड भी। तो आगे की परिचर्चा के लिए हम हमारे कुलीग जो है आशा से मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि थोड़ा सा हम लोग कैसा इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम था, इसकी उद्गम कैसे हुआ, हिस्ट्री कैसा रहा, थोड़ा उसमें हमारे विद्यार्थियों को इसके बारे में बताया।
एक्चुअली ये जो हिस्ट्री ऑफ इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम है, ये लोग के 7th यूनिट है ब्लॉक 2 का, और उसमें टाइप्स एंड हिस्ट्री के बारे में डिटेल्स में है। तो इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम की हिस्ट्री क्या थी, इस पे जब हम नज़र डालते हैं तो हमें देखते हैं हम 4 तरह के इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम्स जो हैं हमारे सोसाइटी में प्रिवेल करते थे। पहला इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम जो था वो आपका फ्यूडलिज्म या सामंतवाद था। दूसरा जो इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम फ्यूडलिज्म के बाद रन किया वो आपका मर्केंटाइलिज्म या फिर आपका जिसको वाणिज्यवाद भी बोलते हैं जी। उसके बाद जो थर्ड जो था वो कैपिटलिज्म या पूंजीवाद था, और जो 4th वन था वो आपका सोशलिज्म या समाजवाद इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम जो था वो रन किया। तो फ्यूडल सोसाइटी के बारे में हम पहले बात करते हैं कि फ्यूडल सोसाइटी जो थी, एक्चुअली फ्यूडल सोसाइटी या फ्यूडलिज्म जो आया, सामंतवाद जो आया, ये एक यूरोपियन कॉन्सेप्ट था। 8th सेंचुरी से लेकर 15th सेंचुरी के बीच में ये वहाँ पे स्टार्ट हुआ। इसमें होता क्या था सामंतवाद में कि एक किंग है, किंग के नीचे जो है फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स होते थे या सामंत होते थे, और उनके नीचे जो है आपको स्मॉल फार्मर्स होते थे, या फिर जो है जो आप उनको दास
सामंती किसान
सामंती हाँ जी, या फिर उसमें उनको दास बोलिए, जो भी थे वो जो फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स होते थे उनके खेतों पे या जो काम वो देते थे उस पे वो काम करते थे। तो ये इस तरह का एक सिस्टम, एक हायरार्की बनी हुई थी और ये सिस्टम चल रहा था। अब इस सिस्टम में क्या था कि जो पावर्स थी वो डिसेंट्रलाइज थी, वो राजा के पास ही नहीं होती थी, वो सामंतों के पास भी होती थी, जो फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स होते थे उनके पास भी होती थी। वही अपने जो वर्कर्स थे, जो वर्किंग क्लास था, जो स्मॉल फार्मर्स थे, उनको बताते थे आपको क्या करना है, कैसे करना है, और कौन करेगा इस काम को। ये सारी चीज़ें जो हैं सामंतों के पास थी। और सामंत जो थे वो जो किंग होता था उसको शासन चलाने में वो सपोर्ट करते थे। रेवेन्यू जो जनरेट होता था उसका पार्ट देते थे, उसके एवज में किंग जिनको लैंड प्रोवाइड करते थे, और उसी लैंड पर जो है ये वर्किंग क्लास काम करता था। तो इसमें इस टाइम में ही फ्यूडलिज्म में ही ट्रेडिंग शुरू हो गई थी, ट्रेडिंग की अनुमति थी, वो अलाउड थी ट्रेडिंग, और आप इंडिपेंडेंट इनकम को आप मतलब गेन कर सकते थे और उनको रख सकते थे। तो फ्यूडलिस्टिक सोसाइटी, जब इनके पास ट्रेडिंग शुरू हो गई, व्यापार होने लगा, जो मतलब जो रेवेन्यू जनरेट होता था, एग्रीकल्चर ही मेन उस समय था, तो उससे जो रेवेन्यू जनरेट होने लगा उससे ट्रेड होने लगा। तो जब ट्रेड बढ़ने लगा तब जो फ्यूडल सोसाइटी थी वो आपको मर्केंटाइल सोसाइटी में कन्वर्ट होने लगी और एक नया इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम जो है वो इवॉल्व किया, ग्रो किया। अब इसमें क्या हुआ कि इसमें जो है जो वेल्थ होने लगी, तो वेल्थ जब इन्होंने ट्रेड किया, व्यापार किया, तो जितने मर्चेंट्स थे, व्यापारी थे, ट्रेडर्स थे, उनके पास पैसा आने लगा, मनी आने लगा। तो वो जो फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स थे पुरानी सोसाइटी के, उनसे ज़्यादा वो रिच, अमीर होने लगे। और जब इनके पास ज़्यादा पैसा आने लगा तो इन्होंने वैसे ये यहाँ उस टाइम में हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स का ही काम था, हाथों से ही काम करते थे, चाहे वो आपका कॉटन टेक्सटाइल हो या फिर आपका सिल्क टेक्सटाइल हो या फिर आपका मेटल वर्क होते थे, स्टोन के जो वर्क्स होते थे, सब हाथों से काम होता था। धीरे धीरे जब पैसा आने लगा तो नए इन्वेंशंस, कुछ आविष्कार हुए, मशीन्स आई धीरे धीरे। तो हुआ क्या, जो ये मर्केंटाइल सोसाइटी थी वो कन्वर्ट हो गई आपको कैपिटलिस्ट सोसाइटी में और एक नई इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम का इवॉल्व किया, ग्रो किया और वो कैपिटलिज्म कहलाया। कैपिटलिस्ट सोसाइटी में क्या हुआ कि अब बड़ी बड़े मशीन्स, इन्वेंशंस, आविष्कार और बहुत बड़े बड़े इंडस्ट्रीज फॉर्म होने लगी और प्रोडक्शन जो है वो बहुत ज़्यादा सरप्लस होने लगा और जो पहले जो सोसाइटी थी उससे ज़्यादा यहाँ पे अर्निंग होने लगी, पैसा ये लोग कमाने लगे और उस पैसे से इन्होंने अपनी जो इनके औजार थे, जो इनके टूल्स थे, मशीन्स थे, उनको और रैपिडली इसको मॉडर्नाइज किया क्योंकि उनको सरप्लस प्रोडक्शन चाहिए था और इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन फॉर्म हुआ, लीड किया, इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन हुआ। तो उसके बाद क्या हुआ कि पैसा तो बहुत आ गया इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम में, पूरी इकोनॉमी में पैसा तो बहुत आने लगा, लेकिन उसके कुछ ड्रॉबैक्स भी हुए कि जैसे दो क्लासेस बन गए, एक इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट का क्लास बन गया और दूसरा जो वर्कर्स थे जो उनके इंडस्ट्रीज में काम करते थे उनका क्लास बना। नेचुरली है कि जो कैपिटलिस्ट सोसाइटी थी उसका मेन एम था कि मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट कमाना किसी भी तरह से। तो उसमें क्या हुआ, ह्यूमन एब्यूज के भी सीन्स आपको देखने को मिले। ह्यूमन एब्यूज में क्या होता था कि बच्चों से भी काम करवाया जाने लगा, जो वर्कर्स काम कर रहे थे उन पर बहुत ज़्यादा हैवी वर्कलोड डाला जाने लगा, इवन 18 आवर्स वर्क डेज भी उनसे काम करवाया जाने लगा। हजार्डस कंडीशंस में, डेंजरस कंडीशंस में काम करने लगे, जो जैसे केमिकल यूनिट्स जो थी जहाँ पे जहरीले और पॉइजनस रसायन बनते थे, तो उनमें कंडीशंस में काम करना भी थोड़ा सा ह्यूमन एब्यूज का एक कारण बना। और इसके बदले में उनको जो वेजेस मिलते थे वो बहुत कम होते थे जितना वर्कलोड। तो कार्ल मार्क्स जो एक जर्मन फिलोसोफर और इकोनॉमिस्ट था, उसने क्रिटिसाइज किया इस कैपिटलिज्म थ्योरी को और ये प्रेडिक्शन किया था कि अगर इस तरह से ह्यूमन एब्यूज होगा तो नेचुरली कुछ रिवोल्यूशंस होंगे। लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने कार्ल मार्क्स की जो प्रेडिक्शन थी उसको ध्यान में रख के इंटरवीन किया। पहले इंटरवेंशन नहीं था गवर्नमेंट का, इंडस्ट्रीज जो चाहते थे वो बनाना चाहते थे वो बनाते थे, जिसको बेचना चाहते थे वो उसको बेचते थे, जहां उनको मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट मिलता था वहीं वो काम करते थे। तो ह्यूमन एब्यूज की चीज़ों को ध्यान में रखते हुए गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया, इंटरवीन करके रेगुलेशंस बनाए कि आप इतने वर्क आवर्स से ज़्यादा आप वर्कर से काम नहीं करा सकते हैं, आप चाइल्ड को एज अ लेबर ट्रीट नहीं कर सकते हैं, आप जो हैं अगर आप इतना वर्कलोड दे रहे हैं, इतना काम करा रहे हैं, तो उसके एवज में आपको इतने वेजेस आपको देने पड़ेंगे। उनके वेजेस बहुत लो थे। तो ये सारी चीज़ें जो हैं गवर्नमेंट ने इंटरवीन करके उस कैपिटलिज्म को वेलफेयर कैपिटलिज्म में कन्वर्ट करने की कोशिश की। तो ऐसा नहीं हुआ कि कैपिटलिज्म खत्म हो गया, कैपिटलिज्म खत्म नहीं हुआ बल्कि चलता रहा। लेकिन मीनवाइल जो सोशलिस्ट थे, जो सोशलिज्म था उसका भी उदय हुआ। सोशलिज्म में क्या हुआ, समाजवाद में क्या हुआ कि जो फ्यूडल रशियन सोसाइटी थी उन्होंने इसको एक्सेप्ट किया और उन्होंने कहा कि जो भी पीपल काम करेंगे वो सारे कॉमन गुड्स के लिए करेंगे, वो किसी मतलब पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट को नहीं जाएगा, वो पूरी स्टेट को जाएगा, सोसाइटी को जाएगा। तो इस तरह से धीरे धीरे जो है एक नया इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम सोशलिज्म के फॉर्म में देखने को मिला। फिर 1980s के बाद सोशलिज्म में भी डाउनफॉल हुए, क्योंकि इसके भी कुछ डिमेरिट्स थे, मेरिट्स थे तो डिमेरिट्स भी थे। उसमें ये थे कि वर्कर्स ने बहुत नए इनिशिएटिव्स लेना बंद कर दिया, बहुत वर्कर्स ने बहुत ज़्यादा उसको ठीक से नहीं किया, नहीं उसको ठीक से समझा, और उससे क्या हुआ कि प्रोडक्शन भी कम हुआ। प्रोडक्शन कम हुआ या प्रोडक्शन जो हो भी रहा था उसकी पुअर क्वालिटी हो गई, और पुअर क्वालिटी या फिर प्रोडक्शन कम कहाँ जहाँ ज़रूरत है वहाँ अवेलेबल ही नहीं है। तो बहुत सारे रीजंस थे जो कि जिससे सोशलिज्म भी डाउनफॉल हुआ। तो बेसिकली जो है पूरे वर्ल्ड में हमें ये 4 तरह के इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम जो है देखने को मिले। ये तो पूरे वर्ल्ड की एक हिस्ट्री हो गई। लेकिन मीनवाइल इसी टाइम इंडिया में क्या हो रहा था कि इंडिया में भी नेचुरली इंडिया भी वर्ल्ड का पार्ट था, तो इसमें भी उसी तरह के चेंजेस होते रहे थे। लेकिन कुछ स्पेसिफिक रूप से अगर हम देखें तो इंडिया में जो हम पहले भी कई सेशंस में हम लोग डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि हमारी जो इकोनॉमी थी एंशिएंट टाइम में वो जो है बहुत प्रॉस्पेरस थी, और यहाँ एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर और आपका हैंडीक्राफ्ट इंडस्ट्रीज और फॉरेन ट्रेड से बहुत शुरू से होते थे और ये बहुत प्रॉस्पेरसली काम कर रहे थे। लेकिन जो एक हिस्ट्री में जो एक डेट है 1757 बैटल ऑफ प्लासी, ये एक टर्निंग पॉइंट था ब्रिटिशर्स के लिए। टर्निंग पॉइंट इसलिए था क्योंकि इस युद्ध के बाद जो ब्रिटिशर्स ने जब ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने बंगाल के जब नवाब को डिफीट किया, तो उसके बाद पूरा इंडिया उनके कंट्रोल में आ गया, पॉलिटिकली भी इकोनॉमिकली भी। और उसके बाद उन्होंने इंडिया को एज अ कॉलोनी बना के इसकी इकोनॉमी को फीडर इकोनॉमी घोषित किया। फीडर इकोनॉमी का मतलब हुआ कि जो रूलर्स को फीड करे, वो सिर्फ यहाँ से चीज़ों रॉ मटेरियल ले जाते थे इंडिया से, इंडिया को कॉलोनी बना के, और वो भी टैक्स फ्री, कोई टैक्स नहीं लगता था। क्योंकि अगर आप कहीं से मटेरियल एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी देनी पड़ती है तो वो कोई टैक्स नहीं था, किसी तरह का कोई टैक्स नहीं था। रॉ मटेरियल ले जाते थे, ब्रिटेन में जो इंडस्ट्रीज थी वहां से फिनिश्ड गुड लाके फिर वापस इंडियंस को बेचते थे। तो ये आना जाना ले जाना, इसमें किसी तरह का ना कोई टैरिफ था, ना कोई इंपोर्ट ड्यूटी थी, ना कोई एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी थी, किसी तरह का रेवेन्यू नहीं, मतलब जितना भी रेवेन्यू जनरेट हो रहा था वो सब ब्रिटिशर्स को ही जा रहा था। और तो इस तरह से वो एक्सप्लॉइट करते थे चीज़ों को। तो उन्होंने एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को, इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर को और हमारे फॉरेन ट्रेड को प्रभावित किया, उसको एक्सप्लॉइट किया। अब एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में देखते हैं, एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में वो एक लैंड सेटलमेंट सिस्टम लाए जिसको जमींदारी प्रथा भी कहते हैं। तो उसमें जो लैंड का ओनर था उसको जमींदार कहते थे, और उस ओनर वो जो है अपने लैंड पर जो है लैंडलेस लेबर्स जो होते थे या स्मॉल फार्मर्स थे उनसे काम करवाते थे। तो उन्होंने ये सेटलमेंट किया ब्रिटिशर्स ने जमींदारों को कि आप इस लैंड के बदले में आप इतना फिक्स्ड अमाउंट आप ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट को देंगे। तो जमींदारों ने ये काम शुरू किया और उससे रेवेन्यू जनरेट हुआ। तो रेवेन्यू जनरेशन का एक हिस्सा ब्रिटिशर्स को मेजर हिस्सा चला जाता था, और काफ़ी हिस्सा जो है वो खुद अपना रखते थे, लग्जूरियस लाइफ जीते थे उससे। और उसके बाद जो लैंडलेस लेबर काम करती थी उसको कुछ फसल का कुछ हिस्सा या फिर खाने पीने के लिए कुछ खाना इस तरह का देते थे। तो एक तरह का एक्सप्लॉयटेशन वहाँ पे भी शुरू हुआ। और साथ में चूंकि जो जमींदार थे उनके पास इतना पैसा था, उन्होंने लैंड पे बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान नहीं दिया, और ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने भी उस पर ध्यान नहीं दिया। वो सिर्फ रेवेन्यू को जनरेट करना चाहते, उन्हें सिर्फ रेवेन्यू जनरेशन से लेना देना था, मतलब था। तो उससे क्या हुआ, लैंड इनफर्टाइल हो गई। और फिर ब्रिटिशर्स ने एक कानून लाके ये कहा कि आप जो ये फूड क्रॉप्स उगाते हैं, ये फूड क्रॉप्स ना उगा के आप कैश क्रॉप उगाइए। मतलब आप गेहूं और चावल की खेती मत करिए, आप चाय, कॉफी, इंडिगो, कॉटन ये सब उगाइए। तो ऐसा ही हुआ। इससे क्या हुआ कि लैंड और इनफर्टाइल हो गई। तो कृषि में जो पैदावार पहले हो रही थी वो प्रोडक्शन लो हो गया, इन्वेस्टमेंट कुछ हुआ नहीं, एग्रीकल्चरल फैसिलिटीज़ कुछ मिली नहीं उनको, इरिगेशन फैसिलिटीज़ कुछ मिली नहीं उनको, तो प्रोडक्शन लो होने लगा। उस टाइम में लोग पेस्टिसाइड, फर्टिलाइज़र, इंसेक्टिसाइड यूज़ नहीं करते थे। तो ये तो हरित क्रांति के बाद चीज़ें आई, तो अब पैदावार बढ़ी और आज वो कंडीशन नहीं है। लेकिन उसके भी कुछ ड्रॉबैक्स हैं कि उसका असर हमारे हेल्थ पे आता है, लेकिन लोग भूख से नहीं मरते हैं, एटलीस्ट उनको भोजन।
एटलीस्ट उसमें ये था कि जो एक ऑर्गेनिक चीजें थी और हमारा कृषि जो है अपने आप में बड़ा पूर्ण था, साइकिल थी, फार्मिंग की एक साइकिल होती है जिसमें से हम कुछ दिन फार्म को भी छोड़ते हैं तो ताकि रीजुनेट हो जाते हैं उसमें। इस तरह से आज की परिचर्चा हम लोग का, जैसा कि हमने बताया था, प्रोविजंस एंड पॉलिसीज फॉर द एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पे हम लोग चर्चा किए, जिसमें हम हिस्ट्री की बात किए, कैसे था वर्ल्ड में फ्यूडलिज्म से लेके कैपिटलिज्म और सोशलिज्म की ओर मूव किए, और बाद में हम लोग कैसे एक अपना इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने पॉलिसी कैसे फ्रेम की और आज के डेट में हमारा इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसीज प्रेजेंट शेप में है। आशा करते हैं हम लोग के डिस्कशन से हमारे विद्यार्थी और दर्शक लाभान्वित हुए होंगे। किसी तरह का कोई आपको शक हो, आप प्लीज हमें लिखें, हमें खुशी होगी आपको जवाब देने की। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू।
पहाड़ों पर जाना किसे पसंद नहीं। इस तरह के पहाड़ तो आपने देखे ही होंगे। चलिए आज आपको विशेष प्रकार के पहाड़ों की सैर कराते हैं। ये हैं कूड़े के पहाड़, जिनके बोझ तले दुनिया दबी जा रही है। इन कूड़े के पहाड़ों में है हमारे घरों, कार्यालयों, उद्योगों से निकलने वाली बेकार की वस्तुएं, जैसे इस्तेमाल किया हुआ कागज, फटे कपड़े, पुरानी लकड़ी, धातु, कांच के सामान, सब्जी फलों के छिलके, पुराने मोबाइल, लैपटॉप इत्यादि। कूड़े के ये पहाड़ न केवल शहरों में बल्कि गांव में भी पाए जाते हैं। अपशिष्ट की बढ़ती हुई मात्रा और इसकी विषैली प्रकृति हमारे पर्यावरण और स्वास्थ्य को नुकसान पहुंचाती है। कभी सोचा है इसका निपटान कैसे होता है, या क्या होता है इन कूड़े के पहाड़ों का? कैसे हम इस समस्या से छुटकारा पा सकते हैं? इन सभी प्रश्नों का उत्तर देने के लिए इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन में प्रमाण पत्र कार्यक्रम प्रस्तुत करता है। यदि आप नगर निगम में कार्यरत हैं, सैनिटरी इंस्पेक्टर हैं, अपशिष्ट प्रबंधक हैं या अपशिष्ट से जुड़ी हुई परामर्श सेवाएं, अनुसंधान या विकास कार्य करते हैं, तो ये कार्यक्रम आपके लिए सर्वोत्तम है। कार्यक्रम की न्यूनतम योग्यता है 12वीं उत्तीर्ण और इसे 6 महीने में पूरा किया जा सकता है, या अधिक से अधिक आप इसे 2 साल के अंतराल पर भी पूरा कर सकते हैं। कार्यक्रम में शामिल है स्व शिक्षण पाठ्यक्रम सामग्री, ऑडियो वीडियो संसाधन और विभिन्न माध्यमों से शिक्षण की सुविधा। तो फिर देर किस बात की, चलिए समस्या का नहीं
Namaskar. Welcome to this session, dear learners, viewers. Today we will be talking about PGCSR and MACSR, which is offered by SOEDS, which is School of Extension and Development Studies, IGNOU,
Today we have our resource person, Dr. Nisha Varghese from School of Extension and Development Studies. Welcome, Dr. Nisha.
Thank you, Dr. Grace.
This is a new program which is PGCSR and MACSR, which has been offered by SOEDS in IGNOU. Dr. Nisha, when we are talking about PGCSR and MACSR, these are new programs, and for students who have enrolled in these programs, it would be very new for them, because enrolling in a university like IGNOU would be, for most of them, it would be the first time that they would be in such a system, that is IGNOU. So, can you tell us more about the school, how this program is offered?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to welcome all the students who have joined us in this session. And let me tell you, dear students, that by enrolling in PG Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility and MA in Corporate Social Responsibility, you are now a part of this mega university. Some of you would already have completed one or the other programs from IGNOU, but for most of you, it would be a first time that you have enrolled into one of the programs of IGNOU. So let me tell you about IGNOU in brief. In IGNOU there are 21 schools which offer around 287 programs in all, and out of these 287 programs which are offered by IGNOU, this is excluding the PhD programs which we have. And these programs are offered through different schools of IGNOU and the regional centers. There are 67 regional centers, and there are more than 2,000 learner support centers. And these regional centers and learner support centers, they together provide the student support services at the regional level, at the state level. In the 36th convocation of IGNOU, which was in April 2023, around 2.79 lakh students were awarded degrees and diplomas. So IGNOU functions with a mission of inclusive education, certification, improvement of skills and knowledge, continuing education and professional development of workplace, self-enrichment, diversification and empowerment. Because of the learner support centers which we have, and because of the regional centers which we have across India, it makes IGNOU programs very inclusive. Students from far-flung areas, students of different age groups, students of different genders, they all can enroll in various programs of IGNOU. Now, the two programs, that is Postgraduate Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility and MA in Corporate Social Responsibility, they are housed in the School of Extension and Development Studies. Let me tell you about a bit about the school. The vision of the school is to be known for highest standard of excellence in development studies, urban studies and extension education in open and distance learning. There are three thrust areas of the school. They are development studies, urban studies, and extension education. So the various programs that have been developed by the school, they revolve around these three thrust areas. Now let us have a glance at what are the different programs which are offered by the school. School of Extension and Development Studies offers MA and PG Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility, PG Diploma, MA and PhD in Development Studies, Certificate and Diploma programs in Value Education, PG Diploma in Urban Planning and Development, MA in Urban Studies, PG Diploma in Animal Welfare, and PG Diploma in Population and Family Health Studies. So that is about IGNOU and the School of Extension and Development Studies.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nisha. It was very interesting, and you raised very pertinent points regarding the, how IGNOU, the education system offered by IGNOU, is inclusive. It leads to continuing education, self-enrichment, empowerment, skill enhancement, as well as professional growth. So this is very pertinent because, like you said, IGNOU provides all these facilities to students. And also when we talk about the programs, which are PGCSR and MACSR, Postgraduate Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility, and MA in Corporate Social Responsibility. So it is very important that students who are enrolled for this, by attending such a session, they would be oriented towards why this program is being offered. Yeah. So my next question to you, Dr. Nisha, is what was the need to launch a program on corporate social responsibility?
Right. Dr. Grace, corporate social responsibility has come a long way from the voluntary and philanthropic mechanism to a mandatory mechanism, right. To the legislation. The Companies Act 2013 came into force in August 2013, and there are two. The Section 135 of the Companies Act, it tells about CSR, and also is another thing that is important is the Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, which lists out various activities which may be included by the companies in their corporate social responsibility policies. Section 135 of the Companies Act says that every company having a net worth of more than 500 crore, a turnover of more than 1,000 crore, or net profit of more than 5 crore, during any financial year shall spend in every financial year at least 2% of the average net profits of the company made during the 3 immediately preceding financial years. Now, because of this clause, several companies are now mandated to do their bit of social responsibility if they fulfill this criteria. Right. So, in order to facilitate the capacity building of the requirements in the corporate world, for the capacity building of the implementing agencies, which will be implementing the CSR activities at different levels. So, in order to build the capacities, these two programs. First, we launched the Postgraduate Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility in the year 2021, in January 2021, and we had 2 sessions of this program, PGDCSR, in January 2021 and July 2021. And most of the participants or most of the students who had enrolled for this program, they opined that it would benefit them if we could upscale this program to a master's level. Right. That is how we launched the MA in CSR in the year 2022. MA in CSR was offered from January 2022.
When we are talking about how companies have to put aside 2% for corporate to work towards activities as corporate social responsibility, I feel that in a way it helps society a lot. Right. Because there would be a lot of developmental projects which are taken up by these companies, or they would they would provide funds to NGOs. So it would lead to a lot of development in the society with respect to education of women, of children, marginalized sections of the society. There are so many ways, and we have seen that a lot of progress in terms of development has taken place because of this factor wherein companies have to put aside certain percentage towards corporate social responsibility. So I feel that it is a very good step. Right. It leads to development of the society as well, and also different sections of the society, especially the marginalized sections of the society.
Dr. Grace, just to add on to what you have said, the idea behind CSR is that the companies are using the resources of the society.
Right.
So it is justified that they give back to the society. So that is why the CSR was mandated in the Companies Act 2013, and this is the way the companies or the corporate, they give back to the society. And as you rightly pointed out, there are so many developmental activities which are taken up by the corporates, not just in the field of education, but in health, in sports, in various different areas of development. Corporate are now contributing towards the development of the society. Yeah,
I feel it is an excellent initiative. Dr. Nisha, as program coordinators for both postgraduate diploma in CSR and MA in CSR, these two are two different programs. So firstly, can you tell us more about postgraduate diploma in CSR?
Right. As I've told earlier, postgraduate diploma in CSR was launched in January 2021. So our first batch was in January 2021. The entry-level qualification for people who want to do PGDCSR is graduation in any discipline. The minimum duration of this program is 1 year, and the maximum duration of this program is 3 years. Now, coming to why 1 year and 3 year, a person can at the earliest complete the program in 1 year, but because most of our takers are already employed, and or maybe due to any reason, if they are not able to take all their exams after the completion of 1 year, then their registration is valid for a total of 2 years. So after the 3 years, so after the completion of 1 year, they again have 2 more years to take their exams anytime, and the exams are conducted every 6 months. So they can take their exams anytime in 2 years and finish the program. So that is why we have kept this margin of from 1 year to 3 years, minimum duration being 1 year and the maximum duration being 3 years. Now let me tell you about how the program is structured. This program is a 36 credit program. All the IGNOU courses, there are around 5 compulsory courses and 1 optional course. The students have to compulsorily take 5 courses, and one of the course is optional. They can either take a theoretical course or they can go for project work. So coming to, let me tell you about the various courses. The first course, that is MEDS 051, which is the course code for the first code, is Fundamentals of CSR. Now this course talks about how the concept of CSR evolved, what are the various theories related to CSR, what are the perspectives of CSR at global and national level, and what are the various guidelines for CSR at different regions. So these are what the topics that are broadly covered in the fundamentals of CSR. The second course is MEDS 052, that is CSR process. Now this course deals with how CSR is operationalized. It also talks about who are the stakeholders, what is stakeholder engagement, and it also talks about CSR and sustainability, how CSR is linked to the various sustainable development goals. The third course, that is MEDS 053, which is titled CSR Implementation. It talks about CSR projects, how to prioritize CSR projects, how the company decides on what are the CSR projects it should take up. Then what are the implementation, what is meant by implementation partnership, what are the alternative trajectories like social venture capital, And it also talks about CSR reporting, in which we have covered what are the different reporting frameworks, what are the CSR standards, what are the CSR ratings and indices. So these are the concepts that are covered in CSR implementation. Another compulsory course is MEDS 054, which is CSR projects and programs. This course covers project formulation and management. It also covers about monitoring and evaluation of CSR projects. Then it covers CSR accounting, then CSR audit. It also covers about, it also briefly talks about SROI, that is social returns on investment, then social audit. So these are the concepts that are covered in CSR projects and programs. We have another compulsory course, which is all these 4 courses are 6 credit courses.
Right.
And we have another compulsory course that is a 4 credit course, which is MSW 009, and it is titled as Community Management. It is titled as Community Organization and Development. It covers community management, it covers social action, social welfare. So all these concepts are covered in the 5th compulsory course. The 6th course is optional course. Either a student can opt for project work, in which case 100% of the assessment is based on the project report,
Right.
or the student can take another optional course, that is MEDSE 046, which talks about development perspectives. So it is about various developmental issues. It talks about sectoral issues in development. It talks about social issues in development in various sectors and all. So this is about the broad course structure of postgraduate diploma in corporate social responsibility.
When we are talking about IGNOU, Dr. Nisha, which is a mega university, and in the beginning you talked about the various features of the programs which are offered by IGNOU, inclusiveness, continuing education, and so many other features. It is also very interesting to note that the programs that IGNOU offer also has flexibility. Like you said, in PGDCSR, a student, the program is for 1 year, but then the student has 3 years to complete the particular program. Plus, when you mention about eligibility, graduate in any discipline. So there is a lot of flexibility. So students from any from any discipline can opt for it. So there is a lot of flexibility in the programs which is offered by IGNOU. So this is also one of the features of the programs in IGNOU. After talking about postgraduate diploma in CSR, can you tell us more about MACSR?
Right. As I already said, that MACSR is, it was conceptualized after we got suggestions from our students of the first 2 batches of PG Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility. They felt that they would benefit if it was upscaled to MACSR, and we upscaled the program to MACSR in 2022. And the first cycle, the launch cycle, is January 2022, and the contents of PGDCSR are the same as the contents of first year of MACSR. Right. And which mostly broadly talks about various aspects of corporate social responsibility. In the second year of MACSR, we have covered various aspects of development. Right. Because in the first year, we could not cover all the aspects of development. So in the second year, we thought of incorporating courses which would be directly related to development. Now, the eligibility criteria or the entry-level qualification is just like PGDCSR, graduation in any discipline. Any graduate in any discipline can opt for MACSR. Also, those learners who have completed PGDCSR, they can take lateral entry into the second year of MACSR.
Right.
So we have multiple entry options in this case. And again, the minimum duration for MACSR is 2 years and the maximum duration is 4 years.
Right.
And this program was specially developed considering taking into consideration the target group of senior, mid-level and entry-level employees of the companies undertaking CSR, then the professionals working in development sectors, NGOs, implementing agencies, different implementing agencies, etc., and then the civil servants of state and central governments, then faculty, researchers and students in universities, research organizations and colleges, and also the graduates who seek a career in CSR. So this is about MACSR, and let me briefly go through the various courses that are involved in the second year of MACSR. We have a basket of MACSR is a total of 72 credit program.
Right.
36 credits are the same as that of Diploma in CSR. In the second year, we have a basket of 12 courses, of which the student is supposed to choose the courses in such a way that he or she chooses 36 credit worth of courses.
Right.
So you have different options, you have different combinations of courses which you can take so that you complete your 36 credits. As you can see, these are the list. I'm not reading out the entire list. These are the list of courses from which you can opt for in the second year of MACSR.
When we are talking about lateral entry, dear learners and viewers, it means that if a student has completed PGCSR, he or she can directly get admission to the second year of MACSR, which is also another flexibility which is offered by IGNOU.
Right.
When we are talking about the various courses, there's one component which is project work. How do students go about that, about the project work, Dr. Nisha?
Yeah. For students who have taken up project work, let me tell you that 100% of your assessment will be based on the project report that you would be submitting. So first of all, you would be required to get your project proposal approved. So first you will be identifying a project supervisor. The qualifications of a project supervisor are given in the project handbook, the soft copy of which has been mailed to all the students who have taken admission in this program. So first you go through it nicely, and then in accordance with the qualifications that are mentioned there, you would be choosing a project supervisor. With the help of the project supervisor, you will be preparing a project proposal. Tentative topics on which you can prepare your project proposal are also given in the project handbook. Once you have prepared the project proposal, you will be sending us the project proposal. The project proposals will be approved by us, or we may suggest some minor corrections and then approve the project proposal. Once your project proposal is approved, then you work on your project proposal, you work on your project report, prepare a project report, and the project report has to be sent to an address which has already been given in the project handbook, or at times the links are activated for uploading the project report, so you can upload the project report as well. So this was about project proposal and project report, and just a brief about how the instructional system goes about for this. We have printed materials. The printed materials for different courses will be provided to you by the MPDD.
Right.
And then we also have audio and video programs. We will be informing you well in advance whenever such programs are aired.
Right.
Then we have our evaluation systems in place, in which the evaluation is such that you will have to write assignments for each of the courses. The weightage for assignment is 30%. The assignment questions have already been mailed to you. And then you will have the term end examination. For your batch, the term end examination will be in June 2024. So 70% of the weightage will be given to the term end examination. So thus we have a system of continuous evaluation as well.
Dr. Nisha, this was a very insightful session on PGCSR and MACSR, which are the two programs offered by School of Extension and Development Studies, IGNOU. Thank you so much. And I hope the learners and viewers have found this interesting and could get something from this session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Nisha.
Thank you, Dr. Grace.
Welcome to this program on connectivism and digital learning.